Hello, this is a new GMP Detox session. Today we will talk about CAPA effectiveness, and I got a very interesting information by George again. He's writing great posts in LinkedIn, and I want to share it with you. And I shared my screen here, so you can also read it. So George was bringing up a very interesting question. How do I define CAPA effectiveness criteria? And it sounds to me that George is doing some trainings, and he explains that if he's asking this question to the group of the people in the training, the most common thing I see training quiz. Yes, we totally can agree with George that that might be not the best option. He's also mentioning other things, which I think is very important for CAPA effectiveness checks and what are the criteria. For example, number one, production process control. So within your CAPA process that you define certain time points, for example, where you can get out statistical process data, and you can verify if your CAPA was effective. We talk about effectiveness, right? So second is mentioning validation reports, the record reviews, even very interesting, verification during internal audits. So you might have an annual audit plan. You can even say that you do 2 audits per year in a department or in an area that you want to. And he's saying also simulation, identify and stop a fake quality event. Yes, why not? So these are quite very good options. But I want to add something. And so I was searching for the typical CAPA workflow, the CAPA process, how I see it as a consultant, as an auditor, very often as an auditor. So you get something like this, this kind of a workflow. So this is another, I think it's an article in LinkedIn saying CAPA simplified. So you see the first step, initiate a CAPA, define the problem, investigate cause, the solution. So this picture is truncated, but it doesn't matter for us today. Then you verify, validate it, you implement the CAPA, whatever it is, a procedural thing or a technical functional thing or whatever. Could also be a process change. And then you conduct the effectiveness check, and then you close the CAPA. I see that very often, something like this. The first thing is I would have some problems with wording and terms. Define the problem. I think at the start of the process, you have, however you call it, an event or an issue, something is happening, you have a defect, and then you investigate the root cause. And the known root cause is the problem. So I would not call it here define the problem. It's the thing that happened, define the event. It could happen even within deviation or non-conformity management, that at the starting of that, you even do not know if it's really a deviation, or, it could also be a deviation in terms of that you still have not specified it. So there's no criteria for that. So there are missing criteria for that case or whatever. So, but here, the interesting question is that I want to bring up is, you see conduct effectiveness check, and then they close the CAPA. For today, just listen, maybe today very open-minded, maybe it's a new idea or whatever. Do not directly say, no, this is not what we want to do. Just let us think together about that. If the effectiveness check, it could be started here and will trigger actions after you close the CAPA, for example. Or a lot of people, I think, if I ask this question, they think we do the effectiveness check, and after that, then it's done, and then we close the CAPA. And this is the question where we want to do this session today. So I was Googling a little bit, You find also here templates, for example, for an SOP. This is a very short one. It's only 3 pages, but it's really short. It will give you some input. However, I would never recommend to you that you just buy in your company templates and you just put in your logo and then you have the process implemented. This is not how it works. Sometimes maybe it's sold like this to you, but that's not a reality. Anyhow, even if it's short, I like here something that I want to show you because there's a verification and check of effectiveness. So they separate the verification and the check of effectiveness. You have it also here in this process flow diagram, verify, validate. So, but the question is, why do I then validate or verify it and then I implement it? I implement it and I verify it, and then I'm setting up the effectiveness check, and the effectiveness check will be done after the closure of the CAPA. An idea. Anyhow, you must think about that, how you want to design your process. What I like here is that they even have kind of 2 steps: verification, documented proof of implementation of actions taken. This is exactly the wording like I would use it. Effectiveness, review of the effectiveness of actions taken. Whenever it will be, 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later, within a predefined period, maybe it will never end. We simply do not know. Or it could also be that you have a deviation, a non-conformity in front of you where you can't do an effectiveness check. Very simple. Also, this could happen to you. I have another article in here, and again, if I'm reading things like this, I always have the impression that the people think, I would call it a silo thinking approach. It's not a critical thinking or whatever. It's just a silo. I have one single kappa, and this one single kappa, I do the kappa uh, effectiveness check, and then I close the kappa, and then it's done. If you read here, here in this article, they refer to ICHQ 10. CAPA should be used and the effectiveness of the actions should be evaluated. So that's not singular, that's a plural, actions. So do I do the effectiveness check of only one CAPA? Maybe I have, I don't know, 189 CAPAs in 2023, for example, in the last year. So how do I do the effectiveness check of all these actions? So, and sometimes again, I have the impression, like it's written here, that the effectiveness check is done here. Who will measure it? That's quite very good. What will be measured? Depends on you. Where will it be measured? When will it be measured? The timing of the measurement depends on the severity of the defect. CAPAs with low severity defects, which are not harmful to the patient, can be put in the parking lot, while more significant defects, such as those that may cause the patient life-threatening harm, should be investigated and checked immediately. And should be checked immediately. I think this is exactly what I was saying, that here, the people think we do the effectiveness check before we close the CAPA. We are still turning around this question today. So let's go on. You can even look on the system suppliers. We have EQMS systems. Here's one very well-known one, but the others are basically exactly the same. I have no preferences of that. It depends on how you configure the systems. They are all great if you do a good configuration of these. So effectiveness check in the CAPA process. What are effectiveness checks? An effectiveness check is the measure and determination that the corrective action has or has not eliminated the problem. There are ways to ensure your corrective and preventive actions does in fact correct or prevent. Verification and validation are examples of effectiveness checks. I'm not sure about that. For me, a verification is if I define corrective actions and these actions are executed and the actions are reported. The actions must be reviewed and the actions must be approved. And you must verify these single actions. But these are examples of an effective check? I would say no, it's something else. So verification consists of actions taken beforehand to make sure remediation plays out as expected and validation is done after implementation to ensure the solution worked. Yes and no. Okay, let's be more specific on that. If we look to another thing. So let's have a quick view on standards and regulations. And we turn it now around. We leave the CAPA process for 1 or 2 minutes, because where should the results written in of the CAPA effectiveness check? In the most solutions, like you have seen in the moment, the CAPA effectiveness check is written down directly in this one single form of the CAPA process. So for each single CAPA. So again, silo approach. People think something like this. So let's go quickly to ISO 13485 for medical devices. And we jump into chapter 5.6 management review. And according to the ISO standard, the organization shall document procedures for management review. That's always very interesting if you do audits. What kind of management review report do you get? How serious is that made? How much management attention is brought to that? Is the management really taking into account as an absolutely fantastic tool to do this management review and to base the decisions, the business decisions on the management review, which is provided by the quality system? Sometimes these great opportunities and chances are not even seen or not taken, which is really a pity, basically. Again, the management review, okay, there should be a procedure. The review shall include assessing opportunities for improvement, blah, 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 and this sort of stuff. Review input. The input to management review shall include, but is not limited to, information arising from corrective and preventive actions under G and H. If I sometimes read management review reports, basically there's a standard sentence in this for every fiscal year saying, yes, corrective action preventive is working. We had 150 CAPAs. The CAPA status is that they were closed, 90% of that, and 15 are still open or in still in implementation phase and things like this. Okay. That's the master data around that. That's just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have that. But you should have a view on that if your CAPA system was effective. Did the CAPA system, your process, do the job? Some companies, for example, define, and I don't know why they are doing that, because basically it's stupid. They defined that a deviation must be closed within 13 business days. No regulation is saying that. I think they just want to make pressure to the people. and they do not have the resources to do that in time. And some companies, then they must create a deviation on a deviation that they were doing it after the 30 days. That's not a quality system. That's not even leadership. That's not quality management. Nothing to do with GMP. That's pure stability. Okay, but again here, review input, corrective and preventive action. If we go to ICHQ 10, and basically this is quite very good if we do so, because that applies to the US FDA, the EMA, Europe, and Japan. We also find in the pharmaceutical industry, now we go from medical devices to management, to the pharmaceutical, from medical devices to the pharmaceutical industry, management review. Senior management should be responsible for pharmaceutical quality system, the PQS, governance through management review to ensure its continuing suitability and effectiveness. Here we have it again, effectiveness. Basically, is the quality system vital? Is it alive, or is it just somewhere on papers, put somewhere on the wall in binders and do their job there? Or is it really something doing for the business? So management should assess the conclusion of periodic reviews and process performance and product quality of the pharmaceutical quality system as described in sections 3 and 4. So let us assume for today that the CAPA effectiveness check, the result of this check, should be put into the management review report, or like we call it here, the management review report, the quality system report, something like this. It's very similar. That's one of the fundamental basic principles of a quality system, continuous improvement. And it could only happen if you also, like you would have a self-check of your system if it works. So effectiveness check. Let's have a quick view. I found some very interesting slides from the FDA, the PDA, great organization, have provided that. And we should know that the US FDA is currently under preparation, is talking about quality metrics, and your CAPA effectiveness is really a quality metric. And here, we can't have anything better. It's the presentation by the FDA. So what they call the measurement program? So they have different things defined already, like the locked acceptance rate, invalidated and validated out of specification rate, product quality compliant rate, for example. And they think about also other processes. And one of these, it's not really wondering you maybe, lot acceptance rate, I already said that. Public comment requested on several optional metrics, senior management engagement. I find it very interesting to define that as a quality metric, and CAPA effectiveness and process capability. So in the current draft, in the moment it's a guidance for industry and a draft version, the CAPA effectiveness is not in there, but I hope, or I think it will come in there, because the things that are already given as a calculated metrics, they very strongly look on production and the product and the process, which is totally understandable, but there could be also a good way of measure as defining CAPA effectiveness as a quality metric. Now I do something very special in this session. I show you something from a consulting point of view, because I want to show you my golden master template for CAPA management, and how I would, if I have the chance. Very often I must use other templates, other definitions, but that is normally my starting proposal as a consultant. And even if I'm an auditor, I have that kind of schema. I have that in my mind. And I think that's a way how you can do that. Maybe it's the best or not the best. We can discuss about that. So before I do that, and I want to show you my kind of a master template. When I'm writing SOPs or work instructions, I use the methodology of information mapping. We do not have the time for today, but there are also fantastic YouTube videos for information mapping, or you can Google for that, and you see they have a very special way in writing document to structure information, to get away from this SOP, whatever, chapter 1.0 introduction, 2 references, 3 scope, blah, 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 in scope, out of scope, 4 references or terms and definitions. Then you are on page number 4, and then chapter 5 is starting with the process description and also with that standard numbering like you have it in the Word template. Nobody's thinking about it. We're just using that. That information mapping model is quite very interesting. And now we will jump into how I would do that. Yeah, I think that's the most important part, to say how can we handle that. So you see that, yes, I have a front page. We must sign that, or we have an electronic system or something like this. Maybe also interesting, I always give the format of a date that must be given, so that an American can read it, I can read it, and a Japanese person can read it. So some say months, months, day, 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 months, months. Some start with a year. However, sometimes even for electronic signatures, please think about that. Okay, anyhow, the content looks here very similar. So, and you see here, that's the information mapping. Summary, objectives, scope. Different structure. So as part of the comprehensive corrective action and preventive action, I also like to write CA-PA, so that it's very clear for everybody. It's not the same. Somebody is saying we do a CAPA, I don't know, it's not now a corrective or preventive action. Okay, so once an event as deviation or incident is detected, it needs to be contained with immediate actions, corrections, the root cause identified as necessary, and systemic actions implemented. For example, corrective actions. Periodic reviews of the process will be executed as effectiveness checks, resulting in quality metrics used for quality reporting. Refer to SOP Management Review Report. You must write it. Medical device industry, in the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so the results will go into management review report, and not only the results saying yes, we have a process and we had that number of CAPAs, and some of them are closed and some of them are not closed, and so this is, yeah. So reduce the number of recurring deviations. That's my idea. I want to have less deviations. So then we put in here the regulations, whatever it is, and what area you are. That's always very interesting, to define the roles and responsibilities exactly with the role name and what the person is responsible for. Even in Word, I do that. You can directly jump. Normally, these are fields, and you can directly jump into this section in the SOP. What I really love is also to have in SOPs is the SIPOC. There's one GMP Detox session. I explained the SIPOC. Very simple principle. We do that today very quickly, but you see that processes: detect, register, investigate, analyze, and assign, plan, execute, and report. Verify actions, verification of action and conclusion, periodic review and checks, and then later the effectiveness check. And it will be closed here at an earlier point, approved deviation or incident, and so on. But then the process is not over. It's still there. It's still there, but now it will be more grouped. It's not a silo approach or something like this. Anyhow, for today, you just see. So if I would now click on this, you see that, then again, information mapping, then you have the task, the description, the function, the results, and I define that very precisely to say, okay, for here, if I need to register an event, how I do that on a system. We have done that with a great business partner here in Jira, but you have seen Master Control, TrackWise, Viva, whatever, it doesn't matter. What is the result of that? So that you really have a very easy to read instruction or procedure. You can even click then here and you directly jump in the document to these different areas. It's not super complicated referring to impact analysis to say root cause analysis, 5 methodology, fishbone, or Ishikawa diagram if you want to know cause and effect. So there are different tools for that. The CAPA itself. And now it should become interesting. In step number 7, effectiveness check. Create review report by QA. So somebody's doing that. It will be put into the quality review report or in the management report. Every company is defining it a little bit different, but it's just a naming. Okay. But what is the effectiveness check again? Different levels in the organization. The management review is the overall mechanism for management to ensure that the quality management system as a whole is effective. Effectiveness checks are executed every 3, 6, 12 months and so on. So for doing so, you also see here the definitions. I work with root cause categories. So every root cause that you write down is usually a kind of textual description of what happened and what was the problem. So, and if you would work with statistics, free text for statistics is horrible. You can't use that basically. So I work, whenever this is the case, I work with categories. So within the observation, what kind of root cause we have, whatever we take, 5Y and Ishikawa and so on, like we have seen that, then we have here the categories which should be assigned to that. And that's very important to work with that category. So the categories could be the problem, the deviation, the non-conformity was triggered by that the procedures were not used. The procedures were wrong, incomplete. And you also see here, this is a growing list. You must adjust it from time to time. You will learn within this process. The procedure is misleading, confusing. It has an inadequate checklist or graphics. The work environment was not okay. You see here again, A, B, C, D, E, F. What was it? Was it the climate, the lightning, whatever? Was it process related? Was the process not properly validated? Were process parameters not known? Or attributes not accurate? Is it product related? Is it quality system related? Somebody changed the supplier and it was not qualified. Even very important, did the people had enough time to do the workload, right? Unrealistic monitoring required, whatever it is. Intolerant systems, but it could also be here training-related errors, for example, supervisor-related errors, individual errors. It could also be fraud or sabotage and so on. And if you assign to your deviation this kind of metrics, categories of the root causes, you can later go into the system and verify. We have done that here with Jira. If anything does work, but here it was very comfortable. Then we will report however you want it, after 6 months, after 12 months. Periodically, senior management will review the CAPAs to ensure that all potentially damaged CAPAs have been dealt with in an effective and efficient and effective manner. And that's the effectiveness check. And do not pose a threat to the clients and so on, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and this is how we provide it, that we could say we had a serious number of training problems. Training records were incorrect. And we also did 3 CAPAs on that, and it's still incorrect. And this is something because what we want to have is not only, if we talk about quality risk management, that we not only talk about a retrospective quality risk management approach, saying, okay, there was something going wrong, and then we will just react on that. No, we want to have a prospective quality risk management, because based on the management review report, we must decide in which areas we must concentrate our efforts as an organization. in a comprehensive thinking? Is it more related to processes, more to product? Not good if we would have training problems at 80% and our only measurement is always we will do a retraining of the employees. Then you must seriously say that the process is not working. So that is something that I wanted to give you today, to work with root cause categories. And then you are able to put your root cause categories in the management review report. And this gives a totally different statement and a totally different baseline for your quality decisions or your business decisions, right? So that was for me important today, that we think about when to do the effectiveness check, how to do it, and to work with that kind of categories. I hope you found it interesting. That was a very long session today, but I think it was worth to talk about that. Give me a like, write a comment. I got a comment yesterday. It's not too much, but I try to answer on the same day if I get something. Subscribe to the channel. Or feel free to contact me. Maybe if you want me as an auditor in something like this, but as a consultant or an auditor doing audits for you, or if you would like to have an internal audit or mock inspection, we provide all that kind of services. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.